The first question says, a project manager is leading a project for constructing an electricity factory in a forested area to meet the increasing energy demands of the surrounding communities. However, a group of environmentalists have initiated protests against the project, citing concerns about deforestation, habitat destruction, and potential ecological damage to the forest ecosystem. The protests had a wide media coverage, which led to a project disruption. What should the project manager have done to avoid this issue? Okay, we have a complex situation here. The project has already started, and the group of environmentalists had initiated protests. Okay, so let's see what should the project manager have done differently to avoid this. Work with the project team to explore potential mitigation measures and alternative solutions that prioritize environmental conservation. Okay, most probably this has already taken place because the project has already started, and I don't think that the project manager didn't explore potential mitigation measures. But the problem is maybe not related to these measures. The problem is rather related to the group of environmentalists who are not involved in the project earlier on. So let's see the other options and whether my understanding is among the options. Have a contract with an insurance company to protect the project from major risks that could disrupt the project. So here we are not tackling the root cause of the problem. We are going to hire an insurance company, but we did not involve the group of environmentalists. So now they are protesting. What's their demand in the first place? Maybe we need to talk to them to understand what they are requesting. Let's see the other options and confirm. C, engage in open dialogue with the environmentalists to understand their concerns and perspectives regarding the project's potential impact on the forest ecosystem. This is making more sense, which is trying to involve these stakeholders. So most probably we are in a situation where the project manager didn't identify the group of environmentalists from the beginning. The project manager and his team ignored this key stakeholder and they fall into trouble later on. So let's check D. So far, C is the best option. D, collaborate with the project sponsor to offer incentives as financial compensation to the group of environmentalists to facilitate their support. Okay, here giving financial incentives. This is a bribe. So I don't think this is the right course of action, of course. Giving financial incentive in order to win their support is not an ethical behavior, and this is a big no. You should not do this as a project manager. Okay, so the right answer should be C. Let's confirm. Yes, the right answer is C. Engaging in open dialogue with the environmentalists demonstrate a commitment to addressing their concerns. Okay, let's move on to the second question. A project manager has been assigned to lead a critical project abroad, working closely with foreign stakeholders. 2 months into the project, things are going smoothly towards achieving the project goals. However, the sponsor received feedback that some stakeholders find the project manager's email communications to be harsh and abrasive. What should the project manager do? Okay, so this is the way how the project manager is communicated, which is perceived not appropriate to these key stakeholders. So what should the project manager do? A, continue communicating in the same manner. Do you think the project manager should do that? Maybe not. And in this case, maybe you don't need to read the remaining sentence, since continuing doing the same thing and that kind of communication is considered not appropriate, then this is the wrong option right away. B, apologize to the concerned stakeholders for any unintended offense caused by the tone of previous email communication and adjust future emails to be more culturally sensitive and diplomatic. This is making a lot of sense. This sounds good. Let's confirm with C and D and check if no better option is presented, then B should be the right answer. Request feedback from the foreign stakeholders directly to better understand their communication preferences and change to face-to-face communication to avoid any misunderstanding or misinterpretation. Okay, here requesting feedback, maybe getting more insights about the appropriate way is considered fine, good, but changing face-to-face communication is not always possible. So I would dismiss this option, not because of the first part, but because of the second part mainly. So if I compare B and C, B is way much better. Arrange a meeting with the foreign stakeholders to discuss the feedback received and explain that's how he is using to communicate with stakeholders in his previous projects, where he never got any complaints. So here, this option shows that the project manager is stubborn, and this is not appropriate, of course. If you receive the feedback from stakeholders, take that seriously and don't show resistance. Try to adjust yourself. That's how we learn, actually. It's fine if we are experienced project manager, very senior, and we receive feedback. That's fine. We don't know everything. Sometimes we work with different projects in different countries and culture differs. That's normal. So you should not be stubborn. Try to listen to feedback. So B is the right answer. Let's confirm. Yes, the project manager should apologize to the foreign stakeholders for any unintended offense caused by the tone of his previous email communications and adjust future emails. Okay, let's move on to question 3. In a large-scale urban development project aimed at revitalizing a city's downtown area, the project manager is having issues engaging with a key stakeholder, the mayor's chief of staff. This is the key stakeholder. Okay. The chief of staff has a significant influence over project decisions and funding allocations, but has a notoriously hectic schedule due to his responsibilities and involvement in various city projects. Despite the project manager's efforts to schedule regular meetings and provide updates, it's challenging to secure dedicated time with the chief of staff, which often results in postponed or cancelled meetings. Okay, that sometimes happens. Believe me, you try to catch up the stakeholder and you cannot do it because sometimes these key stakeholders are having so many things and so many projects and they are involved in a dozens of projects. So finding a time for you sometimes is an impossible mission. So what should the project manager do? A, persistently requesting face-to-face meetings with the chief of staff, emphasizing the importance of his input and decision-making authority in driving project success. Okay, so face-to-face meeting already tried, right? The project manager, despite the efforts to schedule regular meetings and provide updates, it doesn't work. So persistent, maybe it doesn't work also. So this is not the perfect option, I think. Let's see the other options to confirm. Send the chief of staff weekly email updates and bi-weekly status reports and make regular calls to ensure his commitment and solicit his feedback. This is addressing his availability. So sending emails and bi-weekly reports and try to make regular calls, let's say once a week. At least when you call them, you try to ensure that they received the email, they received the report, try to gather their feedback. If the mayor's chief of staff didn't go through the report or the email, you can, through the call, ask them to do that or give them a brief about what's included in the emails or the report. Try to get feedback. This way, you keep them with the latest updates with the project without trying to persistently request face-to-face meetings, which is taking a lot of time of this key stakeholder. So this is a good option, but let's see C and D here. C, delegate communication with the chief of staff to a trusted project team member or assistant who can proactively liaise with them on project matters, ensuring that important information is communicated in a timely and efficient manner. Okay, you, the project manager, wasn't able to meet with this key stakeholder. Do you think delegating the communication to a trusted team member will resolve the issue? Of course not. If you are not able to do that, this team member will not be able to do that. That's simple. That's not the problem. So always remember that if we have a problem, try to find out option that addresses the problem. Sometimes you find solution to other problems maybe, or solution that is not linked to the original problem. So dismiss these options right away. And in this case, C should be dismissed. D, arrange quarterly strategy sessions with the chief of staff and other key stakeholders to discuss the project progress and the challenges. All right, so here quarterly is maybe not enough. It's a very long period, and this is a key stakeholder. We know that key stakeholders should be managed closely, and he's the person who is, let's check here, have a significant influence and has fundings. So once per quarter update is not enough for sure. That's why D is not appropriate, and I will go for B. Let's confirm. Yes, the most appropriate approach is to utilize concise and targeted communication channels such as weekly email updates, regular calls, and bi-weekly status reports to provide regular project updates and solicit feedback from the chief of staff. All right, let's move on to question 4. In a new project of an online application development, the project manager encounters an indifferent stakeholder who holds a significant share in the company but shows little interest in the project progress. Okay, we have a key stakeholder with high power but with low interest, showing up late or missing most meetings despite the project manager's repeated attempts to engage the stakeholder in critical discussions and decision-making processes. He remains unresponsive and disengaged from the project. What should the project manager do? Okay, so here this key stakeholder is not interested very much with the project, even though he has high power. So what should the project manager do? A, focus efforts on engaging with the more responsive stakeholders who actively contribute to the project progress and decision making. This implies ignoring this key stakeholder, focusing effort on the more responsive stakeholders. And how about this stakeholder? So I don't think ignoring this stakeholder is a good course of action. That's why I am going to dismiss A. B, document the stakeholders' lack of engagement and discuss the matter with senior management to seek guidance. Okay, so here the project manager will check with senior management to have some guidance. And this maybe should be the last resort. It means that when you have a conflict, a problem, and the low interest of the stakeholder is going to impact the project. But according to this situation, we are not having any impact on the project so far. There is no impact. So this project manager is not showing up late, and that's it. He's not engaged and he is not responsive. He is not impacting the project. So the first course of action may be to keep this stakeholder happy, keep them satisfied, and that's it. If the situation becomes out of control, maybe then we are going to seek guidance from the senior management. But so far, I don't think there is a need to. Let's check C and D if we find among these two options an option where the project manager tried to adjust their communication to the stakeholder. Maybe that's the right option. Let's check C. Meet with the indifferent stakeholder to express concerns about her disinterest and demand her active participation in project discussions and decision-making processes. Okay, here demanding the active participation and discussion maybe is not appropriate. This key stakeholder is not responsive for a reason. Keep them with their comfort zone as far as this is not harming the project. So address the communication strategy according to their comfort and do not try to make them active by force. So depending on their involvement within the project, according to the situation, we don't have any impact on the project. So it is fine. Just tailor your communication strategies. And let's see D here. Initiate a stakeholder analysis to tailor communication strategies and engagement approaches that resonate with the stakeholders' preferences and priorities. That's making more sense. I would say that D is the first thing that the project manager should do. We know that there is the power and trust grid, and where we have power and interest, and in each quadrant, we have different strategies. So you need to adapt your communication style according to each stakeholder group. I would say that you need to do first D, and then if there is some impact on the project and this key stakeholder need to be actively participating for the success of the project, then maybe you can go for B or C. Okay, let's check the right answer. Yes, initiating a stakeholder analysis to identify the different stakeholders, interests, expectations, and potential impact on the project can help the project manager tailor his communication, strategies, and engagement approaches to resonate with the stakeholders' preferences and priorities. Okay, let's move on to the next question. A project manager is facilitating a sprint review meeting. At the end of the meeting, the product owner approved the release of the working increments. However, a key stakeholder attending the meeting expressed their dissatisfaction with the deliverables and disapproval of their release. What should the project manager do first? So here we are in a situation where there is a conflict between the product owner and a key stakeholder who is attending the sprint review. Okay, A, consult the cross-functional team and consider their decisions. Okay, we have these two parties conflicting. Why involving another party? There is no need for that. That's why I think A should not be the right option. We have conflict between these two, so try to bridge the gap between these two members. Don't involve other parties unless there is some need, and here there is no need. Try to resolve the problem first. Okay, let's check B. Ask meeting attendees to vote on either option. Adopt the decision of the majority. Okay, the vote technique is a technique used for quick decisions and is a technique used for its simplicity. But it doesn't mean that there is a consensus. Usually when there is a conflict, we are looking for confrontation of the problem and collaboration in order to reach a consensus and we agree about the solution. Voting is usually in a next round when there is differences and we don't have any choice apart from voting. Okay, so I'd like to dismiss B here for the same reason as A as well, because we have these two parties conflicting. No need to extend the conflict to the other attendees. C, align the product owner and the key stakeholder on a common decision. That's excellent. That's what you should do as a project manager. Try to facilitate the conflict. These are two key stakeholders. The product owner and the key stakeholder are two important members in the project. So try to bring them to a common decision. This is a good. Let's check D, support the product owner's decision. Okay, if you side with one party over the other, then you are not resolving the conflict. You are not facilitating the conflict. You are just fueling the conflict even more. That's why you should not support the product owner's decision, at least not right away. You should try to align the product owner and key stakeholder on a common decision. And I would say if the difference is still existing and the product owner insisted on approving the release, then you should follow the product owner decision because the product owner is the representative of all stakeholders and the final say is with the product owner. But first, you need to align the product owner. So if I rank C and D, I should say this is 1 and this is 2. Okay, the right answer should be C. Let's confirm. Yes, as a facilitator, the project manager should first align the product owner and the key stakeholder on a common decision.